We all have a story. Your story is not my story, and my story is not yours. However, we can find joy, hope, and emotional healing even through our most painful moments in life. Let's walk and take this journey of healing together, one step at a time, because your story does not define you. Hello, God's beautiful people. It's a beautiful day always, even when it doesn't feel like it. We made it another day, and God's grace and mercy has shined upon us once again. And yeah, let's celebrate it. Let's be grateful and find joy in the day, as each day that we are blessed to wake up in the morning and breathe the breath of life. It's a beautiful day. What a blessing. Dr. Naisha here, and thank you for joining me once again on Your Story Does Not Define You, the podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, I want to welcome you and say thank you so much for listening in. It's a blessing to have you join me on this podcast, and I would love for you to follow this podcast and share it with a friend. As I always state, we are definitely trying to make this podcast global so everyone can benefit from this platform, as well as we all need to hear and share our stories. Sharing our stories and telling our stories are so freeing and provide so much emotional and mental healing. And we all want to be in a space where we can heal, but not just heal. We want to be in a space where we can be made whole. So definitely take the time and follow this podcast and share it with a friend. So, what is your vibe today? Because remember, you decide your vibe. What emotional state or mood are you in today? For me, I would say that my vibe today has been hopeful. I am feeling really hopeful about some things to come, some things that I've been working on and trying to put in order. So I would say that my vibe today is hopeful. I definitely try to make sure that I check my temperature every day. So I definitely want to encourage you to do the same because remember, it's important to do a daily self check and assessment on yourself and see how you are feeling. And based on whatever you're feeling, I want you to make some attitude adjustments. Do some self care to shift your mood if you need to. Or just know what space you are in and know how much you can handle for the day. Because if you know how much you can handle for the day, then you will be in a better space to deal with other people. So today I am so glad to be joined by my loving husband, Mr. Anthony Massey, who so graciously agreed to share this space with me today and have a conversation about a topic that comes up often about men and their emotions. We were having a conversation today about men embracing their emotions and crying and how it is frowned upon. And the conversation that we were having today was so good because he was so transparent with me and sharing the things that he shared with me. And I listened to him and he was talking. And so here we are today having this conversation. So I just want to say thank you, babe, Mr. Massey, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Mrs. Massey. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Boo. So, what is your vibe today?
My vibe is calming,
Okay.
cool, collective, like kind of like TLC.
So, I take it you had a good day today.
Yeah, my day is always good.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. So, let's dive in. So, we hear a lot of talk about men and emotions and them not being expressive for many reasons. And I really believe that men tend to restrict from expressing their emotions, that it can lead to depression, which turns into anger, isolation, having less support available from loved ones, and unhealthy coping, and also can lead to health issues. So, as a therapist, I do talk to a lot of men. I talk to a lot of women, and one of the things that I have noticed is that there is a negative stigma associated with men being able to be honest and transparent and express their emotions. So, Mr. Massey, if I can ask you a question, What are some negative stigmas that you remember that were told to you when you were growing up by your parents, your loved ones, or other men that you knew?
Well, growing up as a young kid, and I'm sure there's, uh, a lot of adult men grew up with their parents telling them to don't cry if you fall off your bike or toughen up, especially, you know, with their fathers or uncles or any male figure that they had in their life at an early age to just kind of be a tough man. So
Okay.
that's pretty much some of the negativities that I experienced in my life, uh, growing up.
Okay. Okay. So you kind of made a statement, just kind of like basically addressing what other men have felt, but then also stating that those same things that you shared are the same negative things that you were told growing up. So, when you think about the negative stigmas that you were told growing up as a young man, as a boy, develop into a man, what do you think were some negative things that you currently experience as a young kid and now, based on the things that were told to you? How did that make you feel when you wanted to express your emotions?
It really made me feel like I was unsure of myself, not confident, not able to express my feelings, holding my emotions back, holding them in, and just not being able to be, I guess, my true, authentic self.
Okay, okay. So do you feel like that affected any of like the relationships that you were in? So that could be like relationships with other people in the past or just even some of your friendships. Do you feel like because of the negative effects that you've experienced, do you feel like that affected the relationships you were in?
Yeah, to a certain extent. Um, just not being able to be again like myself, uh, to show emotions because maybe my partner or my significant other maybe thought that I was maybe weak or not manly enough or strong, but I kind of beg to differ. I'm all of that.
Okay, okay. So we're definitely going to talk a little bit about embracing your emotions. So, as a therapist, one of the things that I have realized just working with people in general is that in order for a person to be able to express their emotions and how they feel, they have to be in a space where they can be vulnerable. So when I think about men in specific, especially black men, it's
Mm-hmm.
really hard for a black man to put themselves in a position to express their feelings and emotions. So as you were talking, it just took me back to think about my father, and I have four older brothers, and how I don't remember my father really expressing his emotions when I was growing up as a kid. I remember a lot of, sometimes anger being expressed at some point in his life because he dealt with alcoholism before he got into church. And I do remember, like, him being the head of the household where he basically he never put himself in a space where he can be vulnerable, where he actually expressed how he felt. And even as growing up and I became an adult and had a relationship with my dad, I also seen a lot of times where he wasn't really vulnerable with his emotions. We used to have conversations and he would share some things with me, and sometimes I would see a little bit of vulnerability, but then I would also see him not really lean into that 100% because he was my father and we all looked at him as the strength of our household and as the man of the house. So I felt like he had to keep himself in a place to really be what we looked up to him to be.
Hmm.
And so even with my brothers, I have four brothers, four personalities, and I even noticed that with some of them are a little bit more open in regards to expressing their feelings and their emotions, whereas some of them are not. Some of them are a little bit more standoffish as far as they don't really say how they feel, but I do see that anger shows up sometimes when I feel like maybe they're going through something, and instead of talking about what they're going through, it actually comes out in another form. So when I think
Hmm.
about vulnerability, one of the things that I feel like is so important for men in particular to be vulnerable is that when men can lean into their feelings and emotions and are open and can be vulnerable, that I feel like it strengthens their relationships that they're in.
Hmm.
I feel like it improves their mental health and ultimately will improve their overall quality of life. I also feel that when a man is vulnerable, that it puts them in a space to show up as a better husband or a better significant other for the person that they're with. And I feel like in this vulnerability, it allows for trust. It allows for trust to be built, as well as it allows for transparency. And I feel like it sends a clear message to the other person that we can have a conversation and that I trust you and you trust me. So I think that when we think about vulnerability, that's one of the things that I feel is so important. So,
Hmm.
Mr. Massey, when did you realize, or when did you first realize that it was okay for you to be vulnerable and to be present and embrace your emotions?
I don't know when um, I was at a point to where I was just embracing my emotions. It was just one day. I just, I felt like if I can't be my true self, then I'm just walking around, on this earth, in this time, like I'm fraudulent. Like I can't be real uh, to myself and be real to the people that I care about.
I like how you said fraudulent.
And so I want to go back to what you were talking about, how your dad was. I'll tell you a little nugget that I used to try to get my dad to tell me that he loved me.
Mm.
Um, he would never say it. I would talk to him on the phone, and after the end of the conversation, I would be like, "All right, Dad, I'll talk to you later. Love you, man," or "I love you, Dad." And he would. It seemed like it was almost like a guillotine to him,
Mm.
to where he couldn't say it. And now I kind of it hurts me a little bit, but I understand because that's just how he was grown up, how he was, his childhood. My grandpa was a military man. He
Mm-hmm.
probably never said to my dad that he loved him. So it's just like, a trait that he probably had instilled in him,
Right.
to just be like, I don't say that. And it's funny now because, when I do tell him or ask him that or say that, he he always says something off the wall like, okay, all right, son, yeah, okay," and it tickles me. So, me and my brother, we kind of mess with him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So my brother, I'll call my brother and say, "Hey, call dad," and just ask him how he doing. And then when you hang up, ask him, tell him that you love him. And he would do my brother the same way. And my brother would call me back and was like, "Man, he not gonna tell us he love us." And
Right.
we would laugh about that.
So, can I ask you a question right there? So, do you think that with you and your brother kind of like making this a comical thing because you've kind of already realized that your dad never expressed how much he loves you guys, do you feel like you guys did that as a way of not of being able to cope with it? Because I heard you say that at one point it kind of hurt your feelings. So do you feel like you made it a comical thing to kind of suppress some of that, your feelings being hurt?
No, no. Well, it hurt my feelings when I was younger, cause because my mom, she would tell me she loved me every day. You know, I would call her, we'd have conversations. Until this day, she still tells me, I love you, baby. Like I'm still her baby. You know, I'm 50 years old, but I'm still her baby. And
Mm.
she still tells me that she loves me. When I call her in the morning and tell her good morning, and we have a little conversation, and I tell her, Mom, you have a good day, have a blessed day. And she'll be like, you too, baby, I love you. And it just felt so good.
Mm.
So, and my mom used to tell me uh, that because her mom never told her or her siblings that she loved them, my mom said to me that I was going to make it a point to tell my kids that I love them every time. And she does it every time.
Wow.
She tells all my brothers and my sister that she loves them, and she does it to this day. And so when I was younger, you know, I wanted to tell my dad I love him, and when I did, he never said he loved me back. But I kind of understand now as an adult that, that's not what his life was about.
Mm.
He probably never my grandpa, his dad probably never told him that he loved him. So it's it's comical now because I understand as an adult now.
Right.
But when I was younger, it hurt me because I wanted my dad to tell me, I he loved me. I mean, I tell my kids that I love them. I
Right.
don't care how old they are. I tell my kids that I love them. I tell my grandkids that I love them. It's just it makes a person feel accepted. It makes them feel relevant to me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Just to tell somebody, and it doesn't have to be like like all mushy type. I love you, but a real man can say, I love you. I tell my best friends, all right, bro. I'll talk to you later. Love you, bro.
Mm.
So it's just a sign to me of, you know, like I got your back, or I'm gonna be there for you no matter what.
Right.
So
Right, right. Absolutely. I love that. I love how you kind of like put that into perspective in regards to why you kind of laugh about when your dad doesn't say that he loves you, but how you talked about your mother and how your mother tells you she loves you every day. And then the fact that you tell your children that you love them. So I love how you didn't allow, even though your dad didn't, express how he loved you to you, but that you've took it upon yourself and made it a point to make sure that you tell your children that you love them. So, as a therapist, I wholeheartedly believe in generational cycles and generational patterns because I feel like, okay, we are creatures of habit and we do things because of the things that were modeled to us. So, if I can just share here, like for example, my parents weren't the type of parents that told me they loved me. And my parents didn't tell me they loved me every day. However, I knew that they loved me.
right,
And because I was raised for so long without hearing, I love you, that wasn't the language in my household every day. But I just knew that my parents loved me because of the things that they did. They made sure they provided for us. They were there for me when I needed support from them, even though they didn't voice that. And so I've noticed that I have five other siblings outside of myself. Actually, six siblings outside of myself. And I noticed that in regards to us expressing our emotions, even my brothers, that we all are different. Some of us are emotional as far as emotional and affectionate in regards to our children or our mother, and some of us are not. And I wholeheartedly believe that That is because of the way we were raised and what we've seen in our home. So I do believe that, cycles happen in families, and that it's really up to us to be the ones to break those cycles and break those patterns, because if we don't, they kind of continue on. So if we can go back to being vulnerable, and about you realizing that it was okay for you to be present with your emotions and embrace your emotions. Can you give me an example of like when you first realized that it was okay to share your emotions, or when you first realized that it was okay to cry as a man? Because a lot of people say that men don't cry, right? But then I
Right.
hear that real men do cry. So what is your perspective on that? Like, can you give me an example of when you first really embraced your emotions and you really allowed yourself to be in a space where you cried?
Um, I I don't know a time and a place. I know I can recall one moment. I think I might have been watching a movie. Uh, I, I want to say it was John Q. Denzel Washington. How he was willing to risk it all for the life of his son, and
Mm,
it was just like one dramatic moment in there where it really like it hit me in a
mm,
way to where, I just started not like a boo-hoo cry, but I just like tears was just coming down my face. And at that point, I kind of looked around, and I can't remember where I was at. I don't know if I was with family, friends, or whatever, but like I was like I just started crying. And at that moment, I just like it didn't really I didn't care what if anybody was looking, or if anybody saying something, or if somebody, I might have been with some friends and they probably mocked me a little bit, but I'm like I didn't really care. And after I finished, after the movie was over, and I kind of wiped my face, and it was just like I was back to my regular me, and it felt good though.
mm,
It really felt like I was I was in a good space, not amongst people, but a good space within myself.
mm.
So I just felt like, if if something moves me and I get emotional about it, what I mean, I'm gonna cry. And
Okay.
I'll let anybody know up front. Oh, are we watching this movie? Or, what are we doing? Okay, I'm letting you know. If it's if it's a drama or something sad, I might be crying, but don't get it twisted though.
Right. So I love that. I love that because I've been with you and I've seen you cry like in a movie, and and I remember the first time I seen you cry. I know I kind of like cracked a joke cuz I was
Yeah,
like, "Whoa,
yeah,
is you crying?"
yeah. And
And
I
I
didn't
kind of
care.
laughed about it, and but it was all in fun and games. But I
Mhm.
know that was one of the things for me that when we were dating that I really liked about you, that you really expressed your feelings and your emotions, and that you weren't afraid to be emotional in front of me. So I hear the phrase that real men cry. I hear the phrase that crying is for weak men. So when you find yourself in a space where you're actually really embracing your emotions and you allow yourself to cry, does it make you feel weak?
No, it doesn't make me feel weak at all. Depending on the circumstances, or what I get emotional about, if I'm frustrated uh, with something, or I don't know, whatever the case may be, if I'm dealing with, I feel like some pressure, could be, I don't know, something financially or spiritually. I might get emotional, and then after a couple of minutes go by, I shed some tears, and then I feel okay. Um, I feel it feels refreshing. It feels like it's almost like a reset,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm still in the moment, I'm still into the now, but it just kind of gives me some clarity, instead of having something bottled up
Got it.
and then exploding at the wrong time,
Right,
or
right.
or exploding on somebody that that's willing to help you, or somebody that you care about, and they have no reason why you're getting upset. Because for me, my emotions sometimes can turn into anger. I
Mm,
get so emotional that it seems like it fuels my anger, and then I
mm.
get upset.
Right. Okay. Okay. Now, I'm glad that you said that. Thank you for being transparent. Now, one of the things that I've heard before is that sometimes, like I mentioned earlier, that when men, especially black men, when they're experiencing other types of emotions, for example, like depression or anxiety, that sometimes that depression and anxiety turns into anger. Would you say that those times that you felt like you got angry, do you feel like it was something else that you were dealing with at the time?
Yeah, possibly. It could have been some depressed, you know, depressing moments that I probably didn't know how to cope with it as a young adult or as a young age. And then, in my environment, there's nothing but anger all around me when I was growing up on the east side of town.
Mm,
So, you know, the only way that I can relieve my emotion was probably through anger,
mm,
when I probably could have had someone that I could talk to that let me uh, have a safe space in conversating with them,
mm,
to where I can express my feelings instead of
mm.
expressing anger.
Wow.
Then, probably some things in my life. Well, I wouldn't say some things, but probably a majority of the things in my life would be different
Wow.
up to this day.
Wow. Well, I like how you said that because as a therapist, one of the things that's so important when it comes to expressing emotions and feelings is you mentioned having that safe space. And having a safe space is so important when you want to have that release. And then you also mentioned about crying and how when you cry, it was almost like a reset for you. So sometimes when I'm talking to my clients, one of the things that I tell them to do is to allow themselves to cry, right? And so some people are hesitant to come to therapy because of the different stigmas that are associated with people receiving help for mental health
Mhm.
issues. Now, we're having more and more conversations these days about the benefits of mental health, and especially in the Black community and the African American community, be about mental health. And so the stigma is not as great as it used to be.
Right.
However, you still have those people that don't believe in therapy, and those people that don't believe that talking to a therapist is helpful and is healing. But having a safe space is exactly what a therapist does. We provide a space for people to talk about the difficult things that they're dealing with life, and we help them navigate through those challenges. So I love that you said about a safe space, and I love how you said that if you were taught different, again going back to those cycles, those things that you were modeled and see in your environment,
Mhm.
that if you were shown something different, that the majority of the situations that you handled maybe with anger or with frustration definitely would have been handled differently. So I want you to think about some of like the difficult or a painful situation that you experienced in life that you felt like you overcame. So I want you to think about a situation where you were dealing with maybe sadness or anger or hurt and being in pain. How did embracing your emotions help you get through that painful time in life?
Well, I had as growing up, I had a lot of uh, difficulties and pain going. My grandmother passed away. Um, I when I was a kid, I had two of my dogs died that I love very much. Um, One that really uh, speaks out to me is a time where uh, my dog died. My very first dog that I had. Her name was Sugarfoot, and she was just a great little dog with little white toes, and she would follow me everywhere. She would follow me everywhere. She would sleep by my bedside. She was very protective. Anybody who tried to come in my room or jump on my bed, she's trying to bite them. And one day she uh, ran outside. I think she was chasing another dog, or I can't remember what it was, and she got hit by a truck. And
Oh,
it was it was tough for me because you know like I said, she would she was a smart dog. She listened, and she was just a good companion. And my dad was just kind of like, boy, you right, it's just a dog. Yeah. And I really didn't get a chance to like express that um to my dad, like how much the dog meant to me. And he just kind of brushed it off. And so that was a little difficulty for me. I can't remember how I really coped with that. I want to say he may maybe have gotten me another dog, but there was nothing like the dog that I had in Sugarfoot. So, um, but yeah,
well, Sugarfoot, that name, how could you not love that dog?
you gotta love
How could you
Sugarfoot.
not love that dog? But so you really can't recall kind of like how you embrace your emotions in that specific incident. But can you think of maybe something when you were a little bit older or maybe recently, since you've gotten to the place where you've realized that you can embrace your emotions? How did embracing your emotions help you get through a painful situation as an adult?
It helped me, now as an adult. It kind of helps me relieve my stress. It kind of uh, helped me, uh, I guess, slow down the waves in my life. Just taking a moment to um, just taking a moment to
Would you say think and put things into
yeah,
perspective?
yeah, good words. Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
Just put things in perspective and just have a clearer mind. I think I can think better, uh, speak rationally, and without just rambling or saying things before I speak per se. Yeah,
Okay. So kind of like thinking before you act, maybe.
yeah.
Okay, got it. So let me ask you this. So when you experience a difficult time as an adult, did you feel like you had a safe space or somebody that you actually leaned on to talk to about what you were going through? And would you say you were vulnerable by really being honest and transparent with that person about what you were going through?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Whenever I had an issue, I can always lean onto my mom. My mom, she was more than my mother. She was like my counselor. She probably didn't have all the right answers, but she kind of led me into the right direction. I could talk to my mom about anything.
Mm.
Uh, my brother, I can talk to my brother about majority of the things that I be dealing with, and vice versa. But you know, I I felt comfortable with my mom because of when I was growing up, she always told me she loved me, and it just made me feel like she had my back no matter what. No matter what I was going through, whatever I was dealing with, good or bad, in a sense, she always wanted the best for me. And
Mm,
so she had my back on a lot of stuff. Even when I did wrong, she kind of had my back, but still I had to learn from my mistakes at the same time.
wow, wow. I thank you for sharing that too about even when you're wrong because I'm a mother and I have three children and sometimes, it's not easy as a mother to tell our children when they're wrong. But when your mother told you that you were wrong, do you feel like you were able to be accountable of that wrong, even though it may have hurt you to admit that you were wrong? Do you feel like you were able to be accountable and try to do something to move past that wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. She is she made it a point to make sure I was accountable for the wrongdoing that I did. But so my mom is kind of like the safety net underneath the tightrope.
Okay.
You know, even though I'm a fall and I might have been afraid of heights, and knowing that I might hit the ground, that she was there to kind of help me. But still, she would tell me, get back up there. You still have to finish the job, or you still have to, be accountable for what you did, because it wasn't me, it was you. So
Mm.
she made sure that I was accountable, but the support was still there.
Wow, wow. I love that. I love how you said that she was your safety net or she is your safety net. However, she still holds you accountable. So to me, I just love like that you have that safe space in her to be able to talk to her because again, even though that's your mother, still sometimes, being open and honest and transparent with your mother as a man can be difficult, right? Because sometimes you have to be honest about things that maybe you're embarrassed about or you are ashamed about. But when you have that safety net, as you put it, and you have that safe space, then you actually can be vulnerable and be honest. So thank you for sharing that. Now,
I, so just to elaborate more on that, because of the things that my mom kind of instilled in me, and not to say that my dad didn't instill anything in me too, but because he did, even though just going back, even though that my dad never said he loved me back, I knew he loved me, So, but going back to what I was about to say is that because what my mom instilled in me, it gives me the comfortability to be open and honest with anybody who I care about, you know, uh, just being open and honest with my beautiful wife,
oh,
and having being comfortable enough to have the safe space to let explain to her, or to let her know how I'm feeling, what I'm going through, without no you know consequences, or being shamed or teased about how I'm feeling. And it to me, it just makes me a better person, to where I can be able to go to, you know not only my mom, but go to my wife and be like, "Hey, boo, this is what I'm feeling," or "Baby, I didn't like the way you said that," or "I didn't like the way you did that," or "You should have put extra jalapenos in my stew." Which is
now, we're not talking about stew now here, Mr. Massey. Thank you for being honest and letting us know that your wife is your safe space too. Thank you, boo. But in all seriousness, though, it is important to have multiple safe spaces. Like, as a man, your wife or your significant other should be a safe space for you. You should be able to talk to her and tell her how you're feeling and know that whatever you tell her is not going to go anywhere, and that
Right.
she's going to be your support system, and that she's going to be your safety net. And I know that sometimes in relationships that is hard to do, because
Mhm.
people get into it sometimes. They don't always agree. We don't always agree sometimes. And we have what Priscilla Shire calls is heated fellowship. Sometimes we
Mhm.
have heated fellowship and we don't see eye to eye. We talk about our different experiences and our different feelings and emotions. And even though we don't see eye to eye, one thing that I like about us is that we actually take the time and have a conversation,
Absolutely.
even when the conversation is not welcomed, and
Right.
even when the conversation doesn't feel good, we still try to hold each other accountable and have that conversation. So just
Mhm.
being able to have that safe space in your significant other is important. So thank you for highlighting that. Now, if you could go back and talk to your younger self, so your younger self that your parents or your dad or whoever, your grandpa, told you that, boy, pull it together. There's no crying around here. If you can go back and talk to that younger self that thought, because my dad told me that I can't cry and that I can't express my emotions, I got to suck it up. What would you go back and tell that younger self?
I would tell that young uh, Mr. Massey to let him know that it's okay to express your feelings, even when your parents might not think that it's the right thing to do. To no fault to their own, it's just how they were brought up, but to still, I guess, press the issue into expressing your dad. For me, it was my dad. Now my mom, I can probably have went to her and expressed it, and it would have been okay. But just to have someone that I looked up to, that looked like me, that had same qualities and traits like me, to be able to open up to my pops and tell him how I felt, and him embracing that and being okay with it, would have been awesome. It would have been awesome in my younger self. So I would have told my younger self, maybe I should have pressed the line a little bit into expressing to my dad exactly how I felt when my dog passed away, or
Right.
when my grandmother passed away.
Mm,
Just letting him know, like, how I'm feeling. And maybe then he probably could express the way he feels
mm,
to me.
right.
I confide in him and he confide in me, and our bond would probably be even stronger than what it is today.
Right, right, right. No, I totally agree with you on that. And one thing that we both know for sure is that we don't have a time clock and we can't turn back the hands of times. And
Mhm.
I know there are so many things that if we could do over, we would. What's the saying? If you know better, you do better, right?
Right.
And so there are a lot of things that I know that people wish that they can go back and change the hands of times. However, again, we don't have a time clock, so we can't go back. We can't change back then, but we definitely can make changes to better our future and to better our right now. So, my last question to you is that there are so many people listening to this podcast, and there is a man that has listened to this podcast. I don't know who that man is, but whoever the men are out there in podcast world that are listening to this podcast, somebody is going through something right now. Somebody's dealing with a painful or difficult situation right now. So, as a man, from a man to another man, what could you tell that man that is going through a difficult situation and painful situation right now? What can you tell them to help them to embrace their emotions as they're going through this situation?
I would say to the podcast men out there in the world, uh, reach out to someone that you confide in. Reach out to somebody that has your best interest, and start off with a simple conversation, and it can lead to how you really feel. You can express yourself somewhere, someone, and somewhere where you can be comfortable and vulnerable, to where you, when you do express your feelings with that person, that they're not going to hold it against you. They're not going to, um, I don't know, keep it in their back pocket to gain, to gain some type of credit. Well, I wouldn't say credibility, but to like gain something out of you.
Right. Or to
Um,
use it to
to
blackmail you.
use, yeah, to blackmail you, or to one up on you, or to gain uh, to gain something out of it. But just, talk to somebody, talk to talk to somebody, because if you hold it in, it can definitely cause some internal anguish. It can stress, it can be stressful, and you can get mad at the right person that's really trying to help you, that you don't know that they're helping you. You're just taking it out on them for no reason, and then when it's all said and done, you really kind of kicking your own self as to why did I get mad at this person, or why did I treat this person that way, and then they're no longer in your life. So
Mm.
definitely find someone that you can have a conversation with.
Right, right. And thank you, Mr. Massey, for sharing that and for saying that. And having a conversation is so important. And that's one of the main reasons that we're having this podcast, is to have conversation about real life situations and real life stories, because lives and it happens to all of us, and we all need somebody. And so even as me as a therapist, sometimes I need somebody. I need a safe space that I need to talk to. Sometimes I need to talk to my therapist because I have things that I deal with on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
So having those conversations again is so important. Mr. Massey, I really appreciate you taking the time to grace us today with your presence. Thank you, Boo. Thank you, babe, for being so transparent and being so honest today on this podcast. I really appreciate you. Y'all ought to see how he looking at me right now. I really appreciate you. And I just want to share with everybody that is listening today. I'm not a man, however, I am a therapist. And I just want to say that your emotions are real. And expressing your emotions does not make you less than a man. It does not make you look weak. You can still be all man and all your manliness and be
Yep.
strong and still express your emotions. Because again, remember, when you hold them in, it can lead to other things. Don't restrict yourself from expressing your emotions, because it leads to depression, it leads to anger, it leads to anxiety, it leads to isolation, verbal aggression, physical aggression. And sometimes, it can cause health issues, and ultimately it can cause you to engage in unhealthy coping skills, and then sometimes even negative consequences. So I just want to encourage you today that if you don't have a safe space in a family member, in your significant other, or your parents, or someone you can talk to, remember that you can see a therapist. There are so many platforms available that you can find a therapist that is the best fit for you. And if you've tried therapy, or if you tried therapy and you feel like the person that you've seen didn't work, or you feel like, there was a disconnect, please, please, please don't give up. Please keep trying, because seeing a therapist is almost like in a dating relationship. You're not dating, but you do develop a professional relationship with your therapist, and you want somebody that you feel comfortable talking to, and somebody that you feel is there to support you. So please, there are so many platforms out there for you to find a therapist that is the best fit for you. Please don't allow yourself to keep yourself from expressing your emotions, because real men cry and real men express their emotions. Dr. Naisha here. Thank you all again for joining me today for Your Story Does Not Define You, the podcast. Until next time, see you soon.